Recently, based on several YouTube requests, I did a video on books that I would recommend you consider reading, and then I did a video on podcasts that I personally like. So this is not a question, I'd like to make a suggestion. From my own experience, I am a consumer of a ton of information. I read a lot of books, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I listen to tons of audiobooks, and I listen on a variety of subjects, everything from business to non-business topics. And I used to not actually listen to non-business and non-personal development topics, and I've brought in fiction and I've brought in a variety of other topics into my life, and I actually think it even expands my business thinking. That's not really the point of the video, but just a little side note for those that only consume business books. All right, so here's the bigger point. I gave an example of all these different books. There's probably something that you're struggling with right now, whether it be you want to figure out how to get more leads into your business, or you want to be better at recruiting so you can find new team members to do all the work that's available to you, or your organization is now growing and you want to become a better leader, you want to build a leadership team, you want to build a management team, you want to build that company that could eventually run in a sense without you, eventually not need you every moment of the day. So you're facing something. Whatever that thing is you're facing, my recommendation would be that you focus on that topic. So you read articles around that topic, you listen to blog posts around that topic, you read books around that topic, you listen to audiobooks around that topic, and you go deep on that topic. So instead of the normal thing, which is often what I do, you bounce around from this thing to that thing and to all these other subjects. What you instead do is you go deep. You read 3 or 4 books on the topic, you read articles, and you listen to podcasts. And that is what you consume for the next number of months, period of time. And you go way deep on that topic. And then for those things that most resonate, where you feel like, oh man, I've had all these aha moments, I've learned so much, you go through those things a second time and a third time. You'll get great value from consuming this book and that book and this podcast and that podcast, and it'll make you a better learner. You'll become more of a generalist. And then as things are flying at you in business, you'll have the knowledge in the back of your mind that you can sort of pull forward and use to implement to solve a problem, because you had consumed and learned a variety of topics in the past. However, to go fast to solve a problem, you want to go deep on that subject. And when you are in that mode, you want to block everything else out, all the other podcasts, all the other books, everything on your Audible wish list, and you want to focus on a topic. That's my recommendation. I think that's the best practice. Years and years ago, and I don't so much follow this individual now, in fact, I don't follow this individual at all now, but years ago this would be the end of 2006, early 2007, when I really started studying marketing, I was attracted to an individual by the name of Dan Kennedy, and I consumed everything that he put out. And I read all of his books. I went to his Info Summit, his Super Conference. I went to all his events. I joined his, whatever it was called, Diamond membership group. I can't even remember the names. I went to the local chapter of the group. I submerged myself in that world and just read everything and learned. And I think it was the fastest way to get me to where I wanted to go. It had a huge impact on my business, had a huge impact on my confidence, and through that world, I met lots of other people. That world doesn't quite exist as it did 10 years ago, or whenever it was that I learned from him. But that period of time, when I was in massive consumption mode, I grew tremendously because I was very focused on what I was learning. Last point I'll make, I remember Dan, and he was a kind of a master at telling you stories that were good for you, but also would help him sell more of his stuff to you or get you to sort of stay in his world. But I learned a lot from him. And one of the stories that he would often tell is that, and he was a big fan of a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, was that if you want to really internalize a topic and understand it, then you want to read that thing 5, 6, 7 times over and over and over again. Napoleon Hill was a big proponent of the very thing that Dan sold. So it made a ton of sense to have you read Napoleon Hill's writing. And he would use that as his story, which is genius, frankly. However, the point of what he was making was very smart. If there's something that you really want to internalize and understand, you don't just read it once and move on to the next thing. You go through it over and over. Maybe you come back to it annually. It's that great classic means of thinking, that great classic book, so you read it once a year. He used Napoleon Hill as an example. Think about marketing. When you're showing up and you're putting out door hangers and direct mail pieces, just putting out one and then this year and putting out one more next year, it doesn't really work very well. You got to keep showing up. You got to become top of mind. The buyer has to see you 5, 6, 7 times before they're like, oh yeah, that company. Yes, I recognize them. I want to use them. Same is true with pounding information into your brain so that you internalize it and then you live it. You got to go deep. You got to keep reading it. You got to keep learning it. Go over it over and over again. That's my recommendation. I hope you find value in that. It's worked for me. See you later.